Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about exhausts. It's been one of the things on my calendar, my agenda, to change the exhaust on the back of the 996. It's really quiet as a standard stock exhaust system, so there can be a little bit more noise to release from the car. There's several options when you're looking to buy an exhaust, lots of manufacturers, and I'll talk you through what I've gone for and why. I have gone along with Topgear exhausts. There was a real good group buy option on the 911 UK forum, and I partook in that. I have gone for the mild exhaust silencers, the mufflers that sit at the back. The reason for going for the mild ones is I've heard the sound versions, the loud versions, and they're quite akin to just having a bypass pipe essentially. I had on my last 996 some super sound Dankst exhausts, and the mild ones I'm expecting to be more like those super sound Dankst. And I don't want it crazy loud because I'm also looking to change the cats as well. The cats I've gone for the 200 cells crossover pipes, and again there's a reason for going for them rather than the X pipes. They've both got their application. The X pipe essentially merges the exhaust gases from each side of the engine, and by doing that it has positives and negative consequences. The negative is lower down you tend to lose torque, but high up the rev range with that you tend to gain power. I mean, I'm not looking to gain power, and I'm certainly not looking to lose it. I'm looking to gain sound, so I'm going for the crossover style pipe, and that should retain that low end torque, which is for me the drivability on the road. If you've got an X pipe, I guess that's probably great for a track car, but for me on a road car, that crossover pipe should be ideal. And the 200 cell cats will release a bit of sound. Combine that with the mild sports mufflers, release a bit more sound still. One thing I would note is that I actually went and bought some stainless steel exhaust clamps. The ones that come with the Topgear exhaust are quite basic, let's say, and it didn't come with any, or I believe it won't come with any of the clamps for the exhaust tailpipe tip. So I've got a couple of those in stainless, and then some more robust clamps akin to the OEM style ones, but in stainless, rather than just a sleeve and a couple of wire clamps. Just belt and braces. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it well, and that's what I decided to do. So let me show you a close up of the cats, because they're pretty nice. Out of the wrapper, and here's one of the cats. Now take a look at this. Look how nice these welds are. It's a proper quality piece of kit. I took it out, and the first thing I said was, "Wow!" And they're really, really well done, aren't they? First impressions, very nice bit of kit. Look around here. Now, I mean, personally, I can't weld, but I have seen some pretty shoddy welding, and I've seen some pretty good welding, and I think this is at the very good end of the spectrum. Nice kit, looks pretty solid, quite light. I'll give them away so we can see what the cats coming off would weigh and the ones going on will weigh, and yeah, see where we go from here. And here they both are together, crossed over like they will eventually do in the back of the car. I mean, they're just lovely. They're really, really pretty piece of kit. I was worried because, the X pipe, the main attraction for me with the X pipe was how good it looked, albeit being hidden behind a bumper. It's a lovely bit of fabrication, the X pipe, but if you want to keep the low down torque, you don't want an X pipe, you want the crossover pipes, and that's exactly what I want, because on the road low down torque is well, for me, far more important than just a high end brake horsepower that you won't touch that often. So happy days. Here's the mild sports mufflers. So again, they look like a lovely piece of kit. Some real substantial hangers on the side. Real clean and crisp bends in all the pipe work. And the welds, again, all look good. Really impressed with these things so far, and weight wise they feel
relatively light. So I'm going to weigh the mufflers and the cats, well one of each, and compare that to the stuff that comes off the car, the stock muffler and cat, and see what sort of weight saving, if any, we're getting here. I'm expecting there to be quite a bit, because having lifted the OEM mufflers off the side of a car before, these definitely feel lighter. But we'll have to wait for the proof of that, because it might just be a subjective opinion. So I will check. The 200 cell cat. So for this, I've had to zero it with a box on top. Otherwise I couldn't get the cat to balance. But it is zeroed, so let's go ahead with a weight on this. 3.1 kilos. Pretty good. The mild sports muffler. Weighing in at 6.2 kilos.
So, as is evident, the bumper's off. It's a real straightforward job. You've got 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4 across the top. Pop out both rear light clusters, and that's just so you don't crack them as you're taking the bumper off. And then you've got screw, 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 screw underneath the bumper. Then just jack each side of the car and take out the final screws, which are just under the arch on each side, there and there. And that's literally all that holds it on. Then you just slide it off. It will be quite a snug fit because it sits in between this bracket here, the plastic, which kind of keeps a little bit of a clamp on it, and then it curves around. It kind of tucks in behind the heat sinks on the exhaust, and that keeps it nice and snug. But right, next up is the bumper bar. That's just held on by 2 nuts. Literally, they go straight down through into the bumper bar. So you can take that off, other side off. It's the first time I had this rear bumper off, and it's a good time to see it's not been rear-ended, which is always a welcome thing. You never quite know until you get all the bumper covers off. But yeah, it's all in good nick, and a good layer of authentic dirt under here, which I might be anal enough to clean, because that's just what I'm like. So once that's off, the heat shield comes off, and then a heat shield either side. This is just held on by a load of nuts. It's exactly the same as the 997 once you've got everything else off. These bits are a bit different than the 997, just different fasteners. And on my one, it's a centre exit exhaust, so the arrangement of the screws at the bottom is slightly different as well. But yeah, I'm going to whip all these off next. Right, all of the heat shields are off. I had one little nut that was an absolute pig. This little bad boy. Essentially, it just wanted to round off. So I had a bit of a battle. Ended up having to get it off with mole grips, but if it wasn't for that, it would have been very, very easy. I think I might, when I go to put these back on, use stainless steel nuts and washers rather than these, because there isn't much to them. They're a bit naff. But hey ho, live you learn. It's all off. Time to have a look at the exhaust itself. So it's fair to say I'm having a bit of a wave the white flag moment here. I've obviously got everything apart, and I've also have the tips off, and I've cleaned them up nice. I've put the new clamps up on here, so that's all fine and easy to access from underneath. The challenge I have is that all the bolts of the cats are really quite rusted and need to be cut off. I could try and do that with my my tool, but it's going to be quite hard work to do it if it's not up on a ramp. So I'm thinking I might take it along to good old NineX Motorsport and ask the kind folk there to do it for me. So bit of a cop out, but you know, I'm not a mechanic, I work in IT, so that's my excuse. So let's do that. I'm going to reassemble, and then perhaps the next point will be getting this over to NineX. Let's see. Well, this morning it's exhaust fitting day, very exciting day. So I've managed to get them all in the car next to me. I've got both the cats in the big box. I managed to get 2 of the mufflers down into one box. So all the fixings and fittings are there, the fasteners, stainless steel bolts, and the clamps. So let's go over to the boys at NineX and see if they can get it fitted for me. Whoop, whoop. So realising it's also my last chance to do a standard exhaust startup from inside the car. So let me get the show on the road. I'm going to turn down the AC, because the thing with the standard exhaust is
when you're driving a car like this with the standard exhaust, the air conditioning inside the car can often be louder than the exhaust itself, which is why it's a good thing to get changed. NineX is just up the road from me, so this will be a very short trip. I can actually walk home from it, which is a bit of a bonus. Leave it there, and hopefully this afternoon, all goes well, have it on. The other thing they've done is got a couple of sensors for me. The lambda sensors, the O2 sensors. As this is an early 996, so it's a 99 model year, but it was built after August 98 to get to the 99 model year. It's only got two sensors, so the two pre-cat sensors, so it actually winds out being a bit cheaper than one of the later cars if you come to replace the exhaust, because the sensors, I mean, they're typically after 60,000 miles at post anyway, and the car's already on 68, so you might be able to get them out. They might be pretty much welded into that exhaust, but if you get them out, there's a high chance they'll be damaged in the process if you touch the ends of them or get any grease or grime on them. So it's good practice to get them replaced. So they've ordered me up a couple of those, which is good. It saved me the bother. But yeah, if you have a later car, there's 4, so 2 before the cats and 2 after the cats. Obviously 1 on each of the cats, not 2 on each cat, before and after. So 4 in total. Half the price if you've got an early car. Another bargain 911 this, you see. It's just such a sensible car to own. Oh, the person in front of me just literally does not want to pull out of this junction, so this is very dull. Right, here we go. We're away. Whoop, whoop. So this is my last chance really to talk about the exhaust. The exhaust itself isn't in that bad a condition. The cats are really quite nice. They're solid, and there's a little bit of surface rust on them as you get the exhaust, but they're pretty good nick. The mufflers, the back boxes, one of them started to go on the seam. They always tend to go on the seams first. They can look perfect from the top and they're pretty horrible from the bottom when you see it back on. Weirdly, one of mine looks very, very good, and one looks starting to look a bit worse for wear. So they've not worn at the same rate, and perhaps one was replaced in the lifetime of the car, but there's nothing in its history to suggest it has been. So I think one's just happened to deteriorate quicker. All of the cack that comes off from the tyres gets kicked up to those mufflers, and it sits on seams and it can rust them out. And I think you'll also get some moisture inside that back box if the car is not moving. You get moisture in there that isn't burnt off. So they just tend to go there. The stainless steel back boxes don't have those kind of seams. They don't have the same areas that can corrode. Not that it should be an issue because they're stainless steel anyway, but it's just the way they're designed. I think it's just a better, cleaner design, and you don't get the same problems. It's always the exhaust fixings that look awful on a Porsche. I don't know what they use to make the bolts, but it's almost like melted butter by the time they've been on the car for a while, and you get these horrible, I mean, it almost looks like you got pork scratching holding a bolt on when you see the nuts on one of these rusty ones. It's horrible. But that should all be fixed with the fasteners I got. So I got the actual clamps, as I mentioned before, from Design 911, and they're basically a copy of the standard Porsche clamp in stainless steel, and that connects your cat to your muffler. The fixing bolts from the cats to the manifolds, I've replaced those with stainless steel. They come with some decent quality bolts from Topgear, but I've got quite a collection of stainless stuff at home, so I'd rather use the stainless stuff where I can. So I've got them on there. And the other thing I did was swap out the bolts that are holding on the mufflers to the carriers themselves, and I got a company called Accu bolts. I got the right size fixings from them, and I've replaced those with stainless. So yeah, it's job done. Let's go and drop it off anyway, and I'll give you a quick view of the car and what's what. Fucking hell, boys. Right. You couldn't write this. I'm literally round the corner from the shop, and these idiots are blocking the road. One doesn't want to move forward, one doesn't want to move backwards, and we're stuck here. He's now got out to eat an apple. What a beep! I'm going the other way. Black NineX exhausts are on. Fit really nice. Let's take it for a bit of a spin. I'll pop this bumper cover back off when I get home, so you have a proper look at it. So let's go and see what the first impressions of it are. Okay. Well, the car's running. On tick over, it's not very intrusive in here in terms of the sound of the car, which is good. We don't want it to be too boomy, and we'll see what it's like when we get to a bit more open road. But yeah, the guys at NineX done a great job for me, which I'm very happy about. There was a couple of bolts that snapped. I had to drill out one of the bolts on the exhaust carrier and put a new bolt through that and bolt it up for me. A couple of I think one of the longer bolts holding the muffler to the carrier, that had seized and they cut that off. And a couple of the clamps, well, one of the clamps on the cat to muffler needed cutting. The second one just unbolted right off, which was quite helpful. But all in all, it's gone together really well. The guys there said they were impressed with the quality of the Topgear exhaust, so that all is good. Always nice to get a recommendation from somebody that sees them all the time. That's the first one they'd worked on a Topgear exhaust and they said it was good. So we're going to have a little drive home, not far. I'm going to take it out for a proper drive once the bumper cover's all back on when I get home, and have some proper impressions. So this is just initially what I'm thinking of it, but yeah, we're only 30 seconds out. Just gone past the point where this morning those two idiots were stuck, not reversing from one another. So let me pick this up in a second. There's not a lot I can tell you until I get to a bit more open road. With the bumper bar off now, we can have a good look at this. It looks lovely, the exhaust. So there it is, up on the hangers. You can see how much smaller they are, these side mufflers, compared to the old exhaust. How they sit in there so neatly. And the cats in there, lovely. Speaking to the chaps at NineX, they said it was no real issue to fit, other than a couple of bolts that were rusty. So I know they had to drill one bolt out on the exhaust hanger. I think it looks like it's on the other side, not on that one there. And the other point they mentioned was that the diameter of the tubing was slightly smaller than OEM, so they had to do a little bit of fettling to get the clamp in place. But other than that, no issue. There are the cats. You can see there's a blanking plug off. That's the post cat, because I don't have those post cat sensors, just the pre cat. So there's the new pre cat sensors that have gone in there too. The stainless steel bolts that I added for the connection onto the manifold. And on this side, we're looking here. Yeah, that's the carrier. You can see down the bottom there. That'll be the bolt by the looks of it that they had to replace. But other than that, everything's gone together nicely. They're the stainless steel bolts running through. Apparently one of those sheared, which they had a problem with, and then a bolt or on the back of this carrier they managed to save. I say save, replace, put another one on. But yeah, it's come together really nicely. I just need to spin these around because they should be on this side, so you can get underneath and adjust them once the heat shields are on. I'm going to pop everything back together and take it for a proper drive. Obviously the process of putting all this back on is just the reverse. It shouldn't take any longer than probably 10-20 minutes. Let's put it all back on. If you know what you're doing, it's super duper easy. But yeah, very happy. Looks lovely. Right, so I'm back in the garage and I've got the exhaust here. I'm going to do the weight comparison now. So compare it with the Topgear one. I had a cat at 3.1 kilo and a muffler at 6.2 kilo. This is going to be a significant difference because just looking at these, physically they're a lot bigger. I mean, I got two mufflers to fit in this box of the Topgear ones, and this is what I'm looking at, trying to get these two OEM one in this box. Let's fire up the scale. So Topgear muffler, 6.2, and one of these OEM mufflers, we're going to be at 9.6. Wow, that's quite significant. Next up, we'll have the cat. Let's let this scale reset. And as these are bigger, I know these will balance on the scale, unlike the Topgear ones. Well, we've got 5.4 kilos, and that plays off against 3.1 kilos with the Topgear exhaust. Right, let's just quickly tally this up and see exactly what the weight saving is then. The weights are in. So at the top we've got the Topgear, and at the bottom we've got the OEM. So 2 cats at 3.1, 6.2 kilos, 2 mufflers at 6.2, 12.4 kilos, total of 18.6 kilograms. OEM, cat 5.4, muffler 9.6, so 10.8 and 9.2, a nice round 30 kilos. So that's an 11.4 kilogram difference. That's massive, especially from stuff that's hanging out by the back bumper. I mean, the one thing I should point out is the cats still have those 2 sensors in them. And even if we were extremely generous and said they were perhaps 200 grams each, and that's way overcooling it, but even if we did, that would still be an 11 kilogram saving. I wonder how many Big Macs you can get for that. I might as well start pigging out. This is good. Well, you joined me a little bit later, having fun in a forest somewhere. It sounds great. I'm super duper happy with it. The one thing I've really started to notice about it, it's a bit of a, it's almost got 2 faces. When you're cruising along like this, it just almost sounds normal. There's a bit more of a grumble, but you can't really hear a change in the, much of a change in the tone over stock, and that's when I'm cruising along at just under 2,000 RPM. Once the engine's on load, it just really changes the sound, and it does sound a bit like the closest thing I know is a Dankst super sound one, because that's what I had on my C4S. It's that sort of volume, but it doesn't have the boominess of that. The C4S, when I had the Dankst super sounds on it, you could hear them all the time. Just like manoeuvring the car, it was a real grumpy, growly sound, whereas this, you don't have that kind of noise at the lower end, which I'm really quite fond of, because it means you're not annoying your neighbours every time you pull off the driveway. But when you are actually on it and under load, by God, it sounds good. That's Maserati. Let's get out here. One thing I have noticed now is that because I've got this different sounds of the engine, I've got to recalibrate my ears to where I am in the rev range. It's also trying to calibrate it against where in my GT3, that's quite noisy too. You've got to calibrate where you are there too. Plus that revs to 9, this revs to 7. But I'm enjoying finding it out. Windows rolled up, sunroof closed. This is what it sounds like driving at 30. Very civilised. We're now cruising at 70, and this is what it sounds like. A little bit more intrusive than before, but still very fine. That's 6th gear, back to 5th. Absolutely fine. It's noisier than it was, you'd expect. But yeah, off the power, cruising, it's a bit more than 70. Probably just the variance in the speedo reading. It's probably still 70. But yeah, quite nice. We can have a chat in here, no bother. So one of the obvious questions that people will ask is, what's it like power and torque wise with the exhaust change? The short answer, I think, is really not any different. I can't really detect any change in the performance of the car. I mean, if there is, somebody wants to claim it on a dyno, perhaps there's a minuscule change, but I certainly couldn't detect it from here. The engine does pick up nicely,
I think it breathes a bit easier because when you're on and off the throttle, you can feel it snap back into action a bit better. Funny thing to say, but you can. The torque hasn't gone from low down, not that there was bags of it in the first place, but it's still there. And the power just is still quite, the car's very zingy, the power's still there at the top end, and it does what it's always done, but now with a bit more of a voice to it, which is all I wanted. Perhaps if you remap the car, you may be able to make more use of the breathing, who knows, but for what I wanted, better sports exhaust sound, exactly what I got, and the bonus of losing that weight over the back, that's what's done it for me. I think I've said it before, I'm not chasing power gains in this car. I just don't think that's a worthwhile exercise. If you want to chase power, get a turbo, really. If you want character, and this is where it's at, if you want even more character, get a GT3. Sorry, but you're never going to get there with the M96 engine. So there we go. Exhaust is good.